The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, the monarchy had a new obsession.
Okay, so picture the scene. It's Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. You're in Falkirk, Scotland.
And the backdrop is, I mean, it's honestly cinematic. You've got these two massive 30-meter-high steel horse head sculptures just looming over everything. They're called the Kelpies.
It's so dramatic, so industrial and heavy. And right there, standing in the shadow of these giant steel beasts, are the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Or up north, they're the Duke and Duchess of Rothesay.
Right. And it just creates this incredible image, doesn't it? You have this ancient mythology of the Kelpies meeting the modern mythology of the monarchy.
That is the perfect way to put it, because the cameras are just clicking away, the crowd is watching, and William and Kate are posing. But they aren't doing that stiff, hands clasped in front, 3 feet apart pose we've spent, decades getting used to.
Not at all.
No. William has his arm wrapped tight around her. They're laughing. It looks warm. It looks like the poster for a movie.
But then you cut to what's happening online, and the mood just shifts. Instantly.
Oh, it's whiplash. Because while one side of the internet sees this fairy tale, this hard-earned love after a brutal health battle, the other side just sees the script.
And the headline flashing across screens isn't just about a nice visit, it's asking royal lies. Their PDA is too perfect.
And that is the tension we're diving into. Is this the look of true love, or is it the execution of a high-stakes survival strategy for the crown? Welcome to the StarScope Report.
Today is a deep dive into the stories behind the fame, and we are breaking down William and Kate's very first joint appearance of 2026.
We are looking at the fashion, the surprisingly touchy-feely body language, those protesters shouting at the pub.
And a fascinating theory known as the chivalric paradigm that suggests this is all a very, very calculated rebrand.
Join us as we uncover the drama, the strategy, and the viral moments. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
So let's unpack this. We have to start with the moment the media is calling the coat hold heard round the world.
It sounds so trivial when you say it out loud, right? Man holds wife's coat.
In the real world, that happens every day. But in the language of royal symbolism, where every single inch of movement is choreographed, it is seismic. It really is.
Okay, so context is everything here. On this trip to Stirling and Falkirk, the whole goal was to highlight Scottish heritage. And naturally, they looked the part.
Oh, they were what the fashion blogs are calling sartorially coordinating.
Yes. Kate's in this stunning bespoke blue tartan coat by a Savile Row tailor, Chris Kerr, with a black turtleneck. William is matching her energy completely in a navy blazer and sweater. They look like a set.
And visually, that coordination is the first signal. It's presenting them as a unified front, a team. But the specific moment you're talking about happened at a place called Radical Weavers.
Which is this really cool hand-weaving studio in Stirling. They're trying to weave the world's longest tartan scarf, which is ambitious. I love it.
So Kate sits down at this traditional loom to give it a try. Now, normally in the old days, what happens here?
Well, protocol dictates that a lady-in-waiting or, some aide would just materialize out of nowhere to take her coat so she could move freely.
It's seamless, it's invisible, and it reinforces the hierarchy. The royals don't carry things.
But that is not what happened. Instead, William steps in. He waves off the aide. He holds Kate's custom coat himself.
And he doesn't just, hold it and look away or drape it over some chair.
No. He stands there patiently watching her weave, holding the garment like a supportive partner.
It completely flips the visual hierarchy we're used to seeing. I mean, think back to the Charles and Diana years. You have hundreds of photos of Charles walking 3 steps ahead, looking at some building, while Diana kind of trailed behind.
This gesture holding the coat, it signals, I'm here to support her work, not just stand next to her. It's such a domestic gesture in a very public space.
And the media they ate it up. Outlets like InStyle and the Daily Mail immediately labeled this the perfect gentleman moment.
They framed it as protective, solicitous, and very unroyal in how, normal it was. It wasn't a servant doing the job, it was the husband.
It's a very, very specific image they are cultivating. But it wasn't just the coat. We saw this dynamic play out again at the National Curling Academy in Stirling.
Oh, this was great. I actually dug into the footage of this. They went head-to-head on the ice.
And we know they're competitive.
We do. We've seen them race sailboats and sprint at marathons. But here, William was actually giving her technical tips. He was telling her to just lean on both sides to steady herself.
And what happened when she took the shot?
She won. She beat him. And instead of a polite clap or that stiff royal nod, they celebrated with a high five and a fist pump. It looks spontaneous.
Well, it looks spontaneous, and that is the key distinction we have to make here. Analysts are already calling this the Rothesay model.
Okay, what's that?
It's a combination of active participation, so they aren't just cutting ribbons, they are curling and weaving, and this visual unity. It sends a message of vitality.
Right. Seeing them on the ice, high-fiving and laughing, you almost forget that barely a year ago, this kind of physical vitality was seriously in question. That high five isn't just a game, it's a signal of health.
And that is the perfect segue, because we can't analyze this behavior without looking at the trauma that came right before it. This rom-com energy, it feels different because the stakes were literally life and death.
What if I told you that just a few years ago, this kind of behavior was practically forbidden? The script has flipped completely.
To understand the significance of that high five or the arm around the waist, you have to look at the timeline. If we go back just 5 years to Commonwealth Day 2020, the vibe was, it was ice cold.
I remember that so vividly. The famous Green Goblin dress moment, the tension in Westminster Abbey. That was the last appearance of Harry and Meghan as senior royals.
And William and Harry were barely speaking. Everyone looked stiff, miserable, and just physically distant.
Fast forward to 2026. William's sporting a beard now, which softens his whole image significantly. And the vibe is described as relaxed and at ease.
But the biggest driver of this change isn't just time passing or Harry leaving, it's the medical context. We cannot ignore what happened to Kate in 2024.
That was a brutal year. William even used that exact word, brutal, in interviews. A serious abdominal surgery followed by a cancer diagnosis and months of preventative chemotherapy.
That kind of shared trauma changes the internal dynamics of any marriage, and it inevitably changes the public performance of it.
It really does. Since announcing her remission in January 2025, they have fully embraced public displays of affection.
And it feels different now because we know what they've been through. One source quoted in our research said, they are in a different phase of life now.
It feels hard-earned. It doesn't feel like they're showing off. It just feels like they're glad to be there.
And Kate has really leaned into this whole narrative of nature and healing as well. Look at that spring video she released back in May.
Oh, yeah.
She explicitly said, connecting to nature helps us to experience a deeper sense of ourselves. She called nature her sanctuary during her recovery. And that video, it featured a tender embrace and the two of them laughing together in the woods.
But does this actually work? Because for decades, we were told the monarch had to be a mystery. Doesn't showing this much vulnerability risk making them look, well, ordinary?
That's the risk, yes. But the strategy seems to be that vulnerability is the new strength. In the past, strength was stoicism, that stiff upper lip. Now strength is showing that you're human, that you survived something, and that you rely on your partner.
Like that moment at the Royal Variety performance.
Exactly. Experts pointed out William's hand on her back then. It's the signal of protectiveness because he knows she is on display after a serious illness.
It makes sense. You want to protect the person you love. But of course, not everyone is buying the fairy tale. And that's not even the wildest part.
No, it's not.
If you want to know the truth behind the headlines, whether it's Hollywood or the House of Windsor, make sure you're following along with us. We track the pattern so you don't have to.
Because for every person swooning over the coat holding, there is someone else rolling their eyes hard enough to pull a muscle.
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about the skeptics. I spent way too much time this week diving into Reddit threads, specifically a community called Royalty Tea, and let me tell you, the tea is scalding.
It usually is. What are they saying?
Well, there's this one user, Unable Guava 756, great name, by the way, who posted this savage comment. Anyone with eyeballs sees the grimacing, and enough space between them for a holy spirit of every denomination.
Wow. That is brutal. But is it fair? Grimacing?
Well, that's the thing about these forums, right? They analyze every micro-expression. Another user called the whole loved-up narrative vomit-inducing.
So what's the core of the skepticism?
It's basically that this PDA is a PR reaction. They think it's a distraction from rumors of affairs or separation or just a desperate attempt to look happy because the institution is crumbling.
And there's also the inevitable comparison to the Sussexes. This comes up constantly.
All the time. Online users are so quick to point out the hypocrisy. When Harry and Meghan held hands or showed affection, the British press often labeled it breaking protocol or attention-seeking.
But now that William and Kate are doing it, it's being framed as chivalry and romance.
It's a fair point. The double standard is real. If Harry held Meghan's coat, the headline would probably be, Harry emasculated by demanding wife.
But when William does it, he's the perfect gentleman.
Exactly. But it wasn't just keyboard warriors in the comments. They faced some real-life friction on this Scotland trip, too.
They did. And we need to talk about this because the photos only show half the story.
Okay, so they visited a pub called the Gothenburg, but locals call it the Goth, in the village of Fallon.
Now, this is a fascinating place. It's a community-run establishment where 95% of the profits go right back into local charities.
Which is awesome. Yeah. And the publican, a guy named Rob Donaldson, was thrilled. He gave William a pint, they laughed. William was even given shares in the pub. Rob called it the highlight of his year.
That's the photo op the palace wants you to see, but outside. A very different story.
Right. There were protesters from the anti-monarchy group Republic waiting for them. And they weren't just chanting generic slogans like, "Not my king."
No, it got personal.
Very personal. I listened to the audio from the crowd, and you can hear protesters shouting, "Have you been covering up for Andrew?"
Referring, of course, to his uncle Prince Andrew and the Epstein scandals.
Yeah. And that is a piercing question to have shouted at you while you're trying to do a happy community visit. It cuts right through that whole perfect gentleman narrative.
It does. I mean, you can be a gentleman to your wife, but are you a gentleman if you're protecting an alleged abuser within your family?
Exactly. And how do they react to that specific heckle?
The Rothesay model in action. They ignored it completely. They kept smiling. They kept shaking hands with the well-wishers who were there.
But it just shows that the perfect image is under attack. They can control the photo op inside the pub, the pint, the laugh, but they can't control the audio outside.
So we have the lovers and we have the haters. But later in the episode, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming, a theory that suggests this isn't just love our lies.
Right. It's actually a sophisticated survival tactic called effective branding.
And this is where we really have to look at the bigger picture. We found this fascinating analysis called the chivalric paradigm and effective branding.
Okay, effective branding. That sounds like marketing jargon. Break that down for me.
Okay, think of it like this. Imagine a Silicon Valley CEO, let's say Mark Zuckerberg or someone similar. For years, CEOs wore suits, they were distant, they were the boss.
Right.
Then suddenly, they all started wearing hoodies and t-shirts. They wanted to look like one of the team. It wasn't just a fashion choice, it was a strategy to remove the barrier between the leader and the employee. It makes you trust them more because they seem like one of us.
Okay, I'm following. So William is doing the royal equivalent of the CEO hoodie.
Precisely. Effective branding is using emotion as your primary product. In the past, the product of the monarchy was majesty, distance, mystery, the gold carriage. Now the product is connection.
And the argument is that this perfect gentleman persona, William holding the coat, losing at curling with a laugh, is a strategic pivot to redefine royal masculinity.
Redefine it how?
Well, think about the old kings. They were authoritative, distant, maybe a bit cold. This new persona makes William look like a modern, supportive partner in the era of gender equality.
He isn't threatened by his wife winning at sports. He's cheering her on. He isn't too important to hold a coat. He's creating space for her to shine.
So by being a beta in that moment, by holding the coat, he's actually securing his position as the alpha of the institution.
In a way, yes. It makes him relatable, but the cynical or perhaps just analytical take is that this effective branding works because it distracts from the institutional stuff. This is the magic trick.
What do you mean?
Well, when we are all debating whether the hand on the back is cute or staged, what are we not talking about?
We're not talking about their tax status. We're not talking about the rent on their royal mansions.
We're not talking about the cost of the monarchy to the taxpayer. We're looking at the emotion, not the institution.
That is a powerful distraction.
Yeah.
To look at the love, don't look at the ledger.
Exactly. And the Rothesay model, what they did in Scotland, is likely the template for their future reign. It relies entirely on the intimacy of sharing a journey.
If the public feels like they are on the journey with them, through the cancer scare, through the recovery, through parenting, they're emotionally invested.
And if you are emotionally invested in William and Kate as people, you are far less likely to want to abolish the institution they represent.
It's survival by sentiment. If we like them, we keep them.
That's the bet they're making.
It really reminds me of reality TV stars. You forgive them for a lot if you feel like you know them.
And that's the danger, isn't it?
It is. And if you're loving these twists and turns from the Scottish Highlands to branding theories, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead, and you don't want to miss what's coming next.
So what does this all mean for us watching, whether it's PR or true love? I have to say, I'm just glad she's beating him at curling. It's just nice to see some life in them.
It is.
Yeah.
And truthfully, it can be both. It can be genuine love and partnership, and it can be a highly effective PR strategy. They're not mutually exclusive.
That's true.
You can love your wife and also know that holding her coat makes for a great front page photo.
True. But the perfect gentleman might be a role that William has to play perfectly to keep the crown relevant in 2026. The margin for error is 0.
One slip, one moment of visible irritation, and the royal TT Reddit goes crazy again.
It leaves us with a massive question about the future of the institution. If the monarchy is no longer about majesty and mystery, but is now entirely dependent on relatability and romance, what happens when they have a bad day?
What happens when the arguments aren't hidden? By opening the door to their marriage, have they accidentally made the monarchy purely a reality show? And we all know how reality shows eventually end.
That is the question. When the emotional connection is the only thing tethering the public to the palace, that connection has to be flawless. And flawless is very, very hard to maintain forever.
Well, flawless or not, we will be watching. You've been listening to the StarScope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.